The productivity and proactivity is at an all-time low because they don't want to go out here and put themselves in a position where they wrongfully get fired, they wrongfully get arrested and or prosecuted. And I understand that. It hurt my soul to go into the community and see the community hurting by record homicides, by record felonious assaults, violent crimes. And right now, everyone seems to be pointing the finger at each other instead of stepping up and being part of the solution.
Yo, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the It's Needed podcast, where we discuss real issues involving law enforcement in the community. It's your boy Ryan Tillman, founder of Breaking Bears United, and I'm joined today by the light-skinned wonder himself, Mr. Oh No, it's the Popo.
Dun, 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 dun. What's up, brother?
Oh, man. And I'm joined also by my homeboy, the Savage.
Hey, everyone.
If only they knew how much fun we have before and after we record.
Bro, I have not laughed so hard. So for those of you guys that are just joining us, Billy just gave me like the ultimate laugh of the year. I haven't laughed this hard since I laughed at AJ for falling on his surfboard.
I legit had water coming out of my nose. He caught me mid-drink.
Oh,
mid-drink with a Billy attack. Billy's a good like one-liner. Like Billy, a slide of one-liner in it just have you like dying.
He had the one-liner of one-liners today though. Oh yeah, man, I got to tell you. So I would tell y'all, some of y'all gonna be so mad because we talking about how much fun we having and not about to tell you guys why we're laughing so hard. I don't know if it'd be appropriate, but let me just tell you it's hilarious.
Oh, Billy. What's Billy's face right now?
Oh man, Billy.
Leave me out of the story.
It was so good though, bro. It was so good. But we'd probably get canceled if we told y'all about why we're laughing so hard. But anyways,
maybe one day. Come to the conference, we'll tell you in person.
Yes,
Our next conference, we'll tell you in person.
I know. But anyways, man, what is going on, fellas? How you guys doing today?
I'm good. Billy, how you doing, man?
Great.
Oh, Lord. Great.
Speaking
Speaking of Kellogg's, man, did you guys hear about the Kellogg's box and how they're, doing the whole pronouns thing?
No.
Oh yeah, there was
Huh?
it went viral. They were talking about how
Like Tony the Tiger? Or?
Yeah, Tony the Tiger. They were basically, it was like a message for the kids on the box, trying to use the pronouns they and them instead of her and him type thing.
So I don't, just real quick, just excuse my ignorance here. So if someone identifies as a they, them, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but they want their pronouns to be they, them, how would you say you saw that person like over there? Like how would you say that in a sentence? I saw them over there?
Them saw them persons over there.
I'm just confused by that. I asked a really good friend of mine that I thought would have got that, and he was like, I don't even know how to explain that.
They saw them over there.
Like I saw them or I saw they over there.
No, them.
I saw them over there.
But what if it's one person?
That's just normal English right there.
Yeah. Like they were over there. They were over there.
But what if even if it's for one person?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay,
And I feel like if someone wants their pronouns a certain way, like be polite and just treat them and say the pronouns. But I don't know why they got to be on cereal boxes. I don't really get it.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't affect my life at all if they want to be called
I'm
something
confused by it.
So here's I was having this conversation with somebody, and maybe we said this before, but I don't mind if people feel a certain type of way. Like if you want the pronouns or whatever, by all means. I just don't think that we should be, in a sense, forcing it upon everybody, or almost like
specifically kids.
And that's my biggest thing. Like allow kids to be kids. Stop trying to take, very, very.
You're sexualizing kids, is what you're doing.
Yeah, essentially.
6-year-olds also think they're robots and they fly. You know what I mean? So like if they think they're a girl that day, like, they're a kid. They don't really know what they're saying. And
a lot of these are complex conversations for adults to even have. So what makes us think that a kid should be having these conversations? And that's what I don't like about it. It's like we're trying to teach them and all this other stuff. Is like, why can't we just, allow them to be kids without having to get into a lot of the complex issue that adults have and discuss. And then when they become an adult, they can have those conversations on their own.
Did y'all hear about Rugrats? You know Rugrats, like the TV show we watch?
Yeah.
They got another one coming out. But like Tommy's, no, not Tommy's. One of the characters, who are twins? What are their names?
Dylan Lil.
Dang, you
Dill and Lil. He jumped at that heartbeat. Dill and Lil. Dill and Lil, their mom got a divorce from her husband and is now dating a woman in like the new whatever of Rugrats. So people like all upset about it. So I seen that. I was like, okay, that's a curveball. I didn't see that coming.
No, I didn't see that coming either. And again, like I said, to each his own. But I just think like, we're going overboard. We're just trying to push everything into the face of these children, and we can't even get it right as adults. You know what I mean? Like, if we can't even get stuff right as adults, what makes me think our kids are going to get it right as kids?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And what I mean by getting it right, I'm just saying, like, having the discussions, having the topics of what's right, what's wrong, all this other stuff, is that we're just trying to push everything to these kids without actually even filtering anything. You know what I mean? So whatever happened to innocence? You know what I mean? Like,
my buddy told me a story. This is kind of like secondhand. So one of my friends' friends took his son to the doctor, and I think he's like three or four at the oldest. And the pediatrician was like going through like the normal, questions and whatnot for like whatever checkup that is. And then like at the end, the pediatrician was asking the kid questions about like what he identifies as. Like, well, do you feel like a girl sometimes, and do you feel like a boy? And my buddy said that his friend like shut it down, and me like, whoa, like, no, hold on, what are you doing? Like, we not here for that. And I was just like, man, that's interesting. Like, I don't know how I would react. Like, if I took my son somewhere and the doctor was like asking questions like that, like, let me parent my son.
yeah.
Like, I guess that's what it comes down to. Like, let me parent my kid the way I want to, as long as it's not nothing crazy, right? Like, as long as I'm not beating
that's
them or
what's
doing
happening
anything.
is like we're getting away from allowing parents to be parents. Now, granted, there are people that shouldn't be parents, but that doesn't just necessarily lend us an excuse to start trying to parent everybody else's kids. And I think that's the bigger issue, is like we're trying to parent and force all this other stuff down other people's kids. It's like, whoa, just wait, just like there's something to be said about allowing kids to still be innocent. Like this whole normalization of sex, like this conversation of sex, and they try to say, oh, kids need to learn about sex earlier the better, and it's like, should they? Like, I remember sex ed when I was growing up, or when we were growing up, was very rated G for a reason. Like, and if you look at any studies or statistics, any girl that's had a child at a wedlock at an early age, like young age, they are now up against the odds. Not to say that they can't come out of it on top and still have success, because I know a lot of people that have had a lot of success even though they had children early on. But I guarantee you, majority of those girls are going to tell you they face a level of adversity that they never face. Adversity that they would have never had they not had the child. The same this is be said with some of these sexually transmitted diseases, or there's just a lot of things that we open a can of worms on when we start going down and delving in these conversations with our children at early age. Not to say that there's not a time and a place, but man, stop shoving it down these kids when they're like in elementary school still.
I know, but one argument, I agree with you, but one argument against it too is like, you let your kid go on TikTok for 5 minutes, they're going to see some very sexual things.
True.
So as parents, you almost have to talk to them sooner.
Yeah,
so they
that's true.
So they have an understanding of what they're seeing, what they shouldn't see, that type, because they're exposed to it so much.
No,
right
that's
now.
true. Very true. Very, very true.
Someone sent me a TikTok video, not to like dive even deeper down this rabbit hole that we randomly jumped on right now, but or jumped there right now. But someone sent me a TikTok video of, and I gotta be careful how I even say this, of a person that I'm assuming identifies as a male but has breasts. Let y'all figure that out. But the TikTok is that person dancing completely topless, like no covering or nothing. And like people are like so upset about it, like, oh well, if I did that, it would be taken down. And I was just like, whoa, TikTok
so
is kind of.
because they identify as male, TikTok's like, oh, it's just a male chest. Is that kind of the argument?
I'm assuming that's because I would assume that it's still up. Like someone said that to me weeks ago.
Wow.
But I was so caught off guard. I was like, whoa.
What did I just watch?
TikTok is okay out here. So yeah, no, you're right, Billy. You are right. Like some of these, and I guess that's kind of what's to come, or what is here, with us figuring that whole thing out. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Like social media, it brings a whole different beast. Like I remember going through sex ed, and there would be like something wrote on a page, and it would say like turn to page 76, and you turn, and it'd be like an outline of breast, or like an outline of a penis or something, and you'd be chuckling like, oh
yeah, exactly.
These kids nowadays, like
now it's just a full thing.
Yeah, yep. So now you
now somebody just sends you an emoji with an eggplant that has veins on it. But
yeah, I've seen that
too. But anyway, transitioning, y'all. If you guys haven't already shut this podcast down already, and you're still there listening to us, thank you for staying.
It is going to be a good episode, because I got something I want to talk about too. I ain't tell you yet, but I got something I want to get off my chest too.
It is. I want to tell you guys though, if you guys didn't know this, I don't even know if we've ever told people that, unless you just stumbled upon it. But you guys, if you're typically listening to this podcast on Apple iTunes or Spotify, that's all great. But we also post this podcast on YouTube as well. So
4K, baby.
Yeah. So if you guys actually really want to visually see us talking, we're on YouTube. I think it's under my thing, under Breaking Bears United's page. But go out there and go and check it out on YouTube as well. And then also make sure you guys give us a 5-star rating, 5-star review, because again, that also helps bump us up in the algorithm, and it keeps our podcast moving forward. So we appreciate you guys. I wanted to get that out early while I had it on my mind. I didn't forget. But yeah, if you want to see my beautiful face and AJ's ugly face and Billy's amazing shirt, make sure you guys check us out on YouTube.
And Ryan's holy socks. That's what you're going to see every episode. You're going to see. Oh, you got the mismatch joints today? Okay.
So y'all want to know how I got to, they match. Yeah, exactly. So how I got to it was when I was digging through my laundry this morning.
You gotta put your legs down. The view on this camera is
it's awkward for me right now. Like I can't look.
I'm just showing my socks off though. But anyway,
it's a weird angle for me right now.
You don't got a big enough camera for that. Never mind. But anyway,
this is why you got to watch the YouTube version.
Exactly.
Right here.
Exactly. So anyways, I was trying looking for a sock. I found one of these, but I couldn't find the other matching one. But I found the matching different color socks. I was like, hey, I'm still going.
So for those of you who are listening, he has a white tube sock on, and then he has a black tube sock on, but they're the same sock, just different colors.
Same logo on it.
Flip
flop
so
colors.
Anyways. Yeah. But anyways, let's get at you say you got something for us. Let's hop right into it. I know we probably losing people by the minute right now, but
yeah, I do. So for those of you who don't know, I'm back to work.
So tell us how work is.
Well, I'm not in uniform yet, just because I've been gone I came back 2 days shy of a year.
Man, they got my man on parking enforcement, bro.
See, so I'm at the academy, catching up all on my training. I do tons of computer training. I have to do firearms. I have to do DTU stuff, in-service training, you name it. I have tons of training that I have to do. So I'm at the academy all this week, but I came back Wednesday, actually. So I came back last Wednesday, this past Wednesday, should I say. And I was at the substation just helping out. And, people, the word got out, right? AJ's back. So people were texting me, congratulations, swing by the house when you get a chance. The kids want to see you. I want to see you and whatnot. So at one point, I ended up linking up with this family that I've mentored for years, man, probably since 2013, 2014. And you remember the kid that I was sitting beside in my rapping video? I wrote the rap to him. Mm-hmm. Man, I'm gonna try to not put too much out there as far as information goes, but man, I've been so involved in that family's life, really since I got on the department that I work for now. So we'll say about 2013. You name it, man. In any sort of fashion you could think about, I've been there. I've gotten calls from that family in the middle of the night. I've woken up in the middle of the night, drove down there, and picked the kid up, or stopped by for whatever reason. We just really at this point, they're family to me. I guess is what I'm getting at. And man, this is gonna upset me talking about it, man. So 2 or 3 days ago, what's today? Today's Monday. Mm-hmm. So Friday night, I get a call. I get a FaceTime from that young man that I mentor, and he's 17 now. And it was late. It was probably about 10 o'clock. And he's like, where you at? I'm like, well, I'm working. What's up? And he's like, they just tried to kill my mom. I'm like, what? he's like, come by the house, come by the house. So I'm like, okay. So I'm flying down to his house, and I show up and there's like crime scene tape everywhere, and there's police cars. So I'm level headed. I'm not like running into the scene or anything but I find the detective that's in charge of the scene, and I'm like, hey, like this is like family to me. Can I go in the house? Because at this point, like that entire family were in their house. He's like, yeah, absolutely. So I go in the house, and I mean, people are freaking out. People are screaming, crying. I find the mom. She gives me like a hug. She's crying. And she's like, I want to leave. I want to leave so bad. Like, I hate it here. I'm like, what happened? And like, no one would tell me what happened. So finally I grabbed like another person that's like was unrelated, but seen what was going on. Like, what happened? They take me in the backyard, and her car is riddled with bullets, like riddled. I mean, they probably hear a car 14 times. So, I talked to some people, and, for those of you who are listening to this, who may have ties where I work, in favor or not in favor of me, I will say this: this information that I'm sharing now was given to me outside of my duty hours and outside of being a police officer. But what she told me is, she was walking to her car, and she kind of noticed like a car was like kind of parked back down the street, and she didn't think anything of it, right? Like, and this woman is so sweet. Keep in mind, right? Like, this is like one of the, like, she's literally like a mother to me almost, right? So she's walking to her car. She has her daughter with her, and her daughter is the juvenile as well. Her daughter gets in the passenger seat of the car. She gets in the driver's seat of the car, and she's on the phone with her brother, and she hears gunshots, pow, 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 and she tells her brother, like, oh my goodness, they're shooting. And the daughter sees what's going on and like grabs her mom and puts her down. And, thank God neither one of them were hit. And it's truly a miracle. Like I'm not just throwing that word out there to throw it out there, but it's truly a miracle that neither one of them were hit. I mean, the door was hit multiple times. There were bullets going through the dashboard, through the back window, the side windows, through the actual seat where they were sitting. Like I said, it was riddled with bullets, and neither one of them were hit. Thank God. But she told me that story, and then, someone told me that story, and then she finally comes out, and, she gives me a hug, and she's just like, I hate it here. I want to leave. I want to leave so bad. So I share that story for two reasons. The first of which is I just want everyone who listens to this, that's a believer, to pray for that family, in particular her, and the young man that I mentor, because he's in somewhat of a really tough position right now, that I can completely relate to, because I've been in a similar position at his age. But the second reason I want to share this story is to encourage you to go out despite everything that's going on in the world right now and do what you do. Crime nationwide is at an all-time high, and we all know why, right? Like, it's no secret. We've talked about it on the podcast. A lot of these politicians who are making moves to put themselves in better positions of power, or to move to the next position, or to gain votes or favors or views online, because that's the world we live in, have no idea what it's like to live in these neighborhoods. They don't have families who live in these neighborhoods. And as I told you, like, this is like family to me. And I felt so hopeless, because once the crime scene tape goes down, and all the evidence is collected, and the witnesses give their witness statements,
back to normal
life has to go on for this family, right? Like, she don't get a new car, she don't get relocated, right? She still has no idea why this happened to her. She still has no idea who wants her dead. So now she's paranoid living her life, and she doesn't want to go home. She doesn't want to drive the car. Like, I don't even know if her car would start at this point. And it's like, we as police officers have an obligation to make sure everyone that lives in our area where we patrol feels safe. And I know that it's hard right now, and I know that the cards are stacked against us, but what better time to show the world who we truly are? we all know that the community supports us, right? Like I work in a very bad area, and I'll put bad in air quotes for those of you who can't see what I'm saying right now. And when I say bad, I mean high crime, right? Like low income. And I historically have, like, throughout my tenure with my department. But with that said, the community has always supported us as a profession. Despite what's on TV, despite what's on the radio, despite what certain celebrities and politicians are saying, like, we know that. So it's really up to us to show the world that. So instead of backing down and backing away and taking your foot off of the gas pedal, we should be doing the complete opposite right now, because these families are living in fear right now. Like, ultimately the community is suffering because of everything going on, the divisiveness, the pandering, the hatred, the lack of God, really. The communities are suffering. And I know police officers whose mindset is, okay, they don't want me to do any work, I'm gonna sit in my car and I'm gonna get my check every other week.
Yeah.
And I get it. I understand that. But like, what I want you, and I'll pass this mic here in a minute. But what I want you as a listener to understand is, these are humans that have no other option but to live in these areas. Good humans, good people. And even if they're not, right? Like, even if they're criminals or, whatever, they still deserve to live a peaceful life, other than them going out and causing their life to not be peaceful. So just keep that in mind. Like, I know things are rough right now. And prior to me going to work, like, I heard so much like negativity about the job. Like, oh, it's so hard. And I know officers who have completely walked away from the profession because of everything that goes on. Keep in mind, I'm not undermining everything that's going on. And I know that I wasn't there during the thick of it. I'm kind of coming in, on the tail end of things. But with that said, like, my perspective is different. Like, I look at it like, okay, these are challenging times. It's time to step up to the plate.
Yep.
It's time to step up to the plate, and it's time to encourage everybody. So for those of you who are listening to this, encourage your coworkers to do the same, but encourage them by your actions.
That's deep, man. And just know I'm praying for that family, and I'm praying for everybody that was affected, either indirectly or directly, from that event. But that also kind of leads me to, I guess, a topic for us today is, you've said it before, I think I've said it before, is that, usually everybody that has advice or recommendations about police reform are the ones that are the most detached from it. And I mean that in many ways. But one of the examples is a lot of these people that scream to get law enforcement out of the neighborhoods and stuff like that are the ones that don't live in the neighborhoods. Because if you actually went into the neighborhood, they're the ones that are actually there screaming like, no, we like police. We want police.
Yeah,
100%. We want them to keep us safe. They're the only barrier in between us and the bad guys. And so while you have all these people lobbying to get all the police out of the neighborhoods, those are the ones that aren't even affected by it. But it also brings me back to another situation that I just got in recording a video for, which was, I saw an administrator, a school administrator, walk up to a police officer who's just strolling through a school campus. I don't know what state this was in, and essentially tells him that he needs to leave because she doesn't feel comfortable and that she needs to have a discussion with her chief of police before she allows any law enforcement officer on her campus in the name of safety, because she feels that people don't feel safe with the police there. And so my question for that is that, have you talked to any students about this? Have you talked to any parents about this? As a school resource or former school resource officer, I took ownership of that job so much that I would call the children at that school my own children.
Right.
Because, I would always say one of my worst fears was leaving the campus for lunch and finding out that something terrible happened and I wasn't there to protect my children. And so it's the same concept, you know what I mean? And so, we making all these decisions. That administrator is making a decision on behalf of the kids and parents without actually talking to the kids or parents. Now, don't get me wrong. There's probably going to be some parents and kids that are going to say, oh, yeah, we don't want them here. We're afraid. But a lot of that is, one, in part of these administrators pushing this false agenda or false narrative to these kids and parents. But also, you're making decisions without actually having any relevance just because you have a title of doctor in front of your last name, you feel you need to make an executive decision that's not in favor of the parents and the students. And it's the same concept going back to the situation you just described with your friends, is that all these people pushing to get police officers out of the neighborhood are not the ones that are actually living in the neighborhood. And that's what's so frustrating is that, you know, you look and you just see all these people in the name of propaganda pushing these agenda, but are so disconnected from reality. And you and I would be the first ones to say that we can and should get better as a profession. There are mistakes that we've made in our profession, but don't be mistaken by the misjudgments we've made and try to paint all law enforcement with that same broad brush that we all make mistakes like that, because we don't. It's a small percentage, and you guys are negatively affecting the community by and large by your negligence for the sake of promoting yourself, getting likes, getting clicks, and getting viewership.
There's a saying, or a quote, I don't know which one it is or where it came from, and I'm probably going to butcher it somewhat, but I really like the meaning behind it. And it says something to the effect of character is who you are when no one else is around. And I love it, right? Like I love everything that that says and what it means, just because a lot of people do things for clout and whatnot. But I want to take it a step further and say character is who you are when you're being attacked. It really just shows like who you are to the core. And right now we are being attacked as a profession. So who are you going to be during these times? Like, are you going to be the person that takes a step back and allows our attackers to go, look, I told you, they don't care? Or are you going to be the person that steps up and goes, if you want to crucify me and hang me out to dry for doing my job, for helping people, for, pouring my life and positivity into others, then so be it. I'm going to go out doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And for me, and you're talking to a guy, who has a family, right? Like I have to financially support my family. I feel like I have an obligation to financially support my family. But with that said, like, no one's going to stop me from doing what I feel is right. And that's who I am to the core. Like, I can't tell you how many arguments, how many almost physical altercations, and even physical altercations that I've gotten into doing what I feel is right. And I want you to ask yourself that, like, if you're on patrol right now, if you're a lawmaker, if you're a politician, if you're a leader, I don't care who you are, but are you doing what's right at the end of the day? Despite everything else going on in the world, despite they want to defund us, despite ACAB, despite F12, despite all the songs, despite all the politicians, the people who are in these made up positions who feel like they have some authority over us, are you doing what's right? And if you can't immediately answer yes, then you need to take a second look at how you maneuver through your day to day, because you were put, whether you believe it or not, you were put in the position that you're in for a reason. Yep. And Les Brown said it, right? Les Brown said, picture you being on your deathbed and you're surrounded by all of the ghosts of the things you never executed on, right? To the right of you is a ghost of a business you never started. To the left of you is a ghost of another opportunity that you didn't jump at. And they're all talking to you because they're dead, because they're dying with you. Do you want to be in that position where you're in your deathbed and you're surrounded by all of these ghosts, these what ifs, these I should haves? You got me going. And I know I'm like on a tangent right now, but like it hurt my soul to see my brothers and sisters in law enforcement have such awful morale, that the productivity and proactivity is at an all-time low because they don't want to go out here and put themselves in a position where they wrongfully get fired, they wrongfully get arrested and are prosecuted. And I understand that. It hurt my soul to go into the community and see the community hurting by record homicides, by record felonious assaults, violent crimes. And right now, everyone seems to be pointing the finger at each other instead of stepping up and being part of the solution. And it kills me. So like you have to excuse me if I'm being repetitive right now, but I feel like I'm not hearing it enough. Therefore, I'm going to say it until I feel like people are hearing it enough. Absolutely. You have to be part of the solution. Like, I know it's hard right now. I know it's hard. And for the civilians listening to this, I know it's hard to trust the police right now. I'm not going to ignore that fact. I know every time you turn on the TV, you see something negative. I know every time you turn on the radio, you hear something negative. I know a majority of times when you talk to people, you hear something negative. But what are you going to do to be part of the solution? Are you going to meet a police officer and have a conversation with them? Are you going to go out of your way to maybe say something positive to a police officer, hoping that a positive outcome will come out of it? Or are you going to bring more negativity into the pot and hope for a positive outcome? Which never happens.
You on today. And then also too, I want to challenge you guys to check your motive. Like, don't just do things for the sake of doing it. Check your motives. And I'll use me for example. You know, there's a lot of people that have said that I do what I do for the sake of getting clout. I do what I do for the sake of making extra money. I do what I do for the sake of trying to get promoted. But you know, all those things I just mentioned, that's all the byproduct of a motive to change the way people view policing and to improve the professional law enforcement. That's all a byproduct. Yeah. I did not start doing what I'm doing to say, you know, I'm gonna go out there and make some extra cash doing this. I didn't start doing this for the sake of saying, you know what, this is gonna help me get, you know, bars and stars on my collar. I didn't go out there and start this to just say, you know what, this is what I'm gonna do so that way, you know, millions of people follow me and like me. No, all that stuff is a byproduct, but my motives were pure. My motives were genuinely to go out there and change the way people view law enforcement in the community. And so the reason I say check your motive is because the people with, you know, ill intent, the people with, you know, with these terrible motives, those are the people who are driving all of us away from each other. Those are the people that are driving this wedge in between the good people of law enforcement and the good members of the community. Those are the people with those bad motives that are right in the middle, and yet we are looking over those people with these bad motives and pointing the finger at one another while they hide out and just say, look at them, look at what we're doing is working. Prime example of that is the BLM co-founder. I don't know if you saw, but she just stepped down. She resigned. And so while a lot of people are happy that she resigned, should we really be happy? Because now with her resigning, you know what that does for her? Now she can take all the clout that she got from pushing such a negative agenda through Black Lives Matter, and now she doesn't have to feel negative about living in the $1 million mansion that she bought. Now she doesn't have to feel negative about writing a book or starting a book based off of an organization that fueled division between people. That's what makes me so mad about it, is now she can do it and do it guilt-free because she's not attached to an organization, and now she can, you know, it's not, you know, when you say, hey, I made $1 million and you're the founder of Black Lives Matter, it causes people to probe into you and say, what are your real motives? But now that you're separate from it, now people can probe all they want, but she's now an author. Now she's a business owner, all this other stuff. And I say that with this in mind, is that there are so many people like her. I don't know her personally, but I do know the organization. I do know what the organization stands for. I do know the true intent of the organization. If you're somebody that is pro BLM, let me tell you something. I have gone on the front lines, just like AJ, of a lot of these places that have been so hit and ridden with all this social unrest like no other. When the whole George Floyd thing happened, I went down to Minneapolis shortly after that whole thing happened, and I was in towns where there was no more police. I was in towns where they took resources away. I was in towns where the pastors of the churches said, we're out here feeding people in droves every single day, and BLM we know they're in town, but has not donated a dime to anybody in these towns. They raised over $35 million in that one town alone and didn't donate a dime to the people that they were proposing these causes for. We've seen so many people that have been killed by police who, you know, were legitimately, you know, hurting and stuff for their families, and they have also come out and said BLM didn't do a thing for them other than use their name or family member who's killed at the hands of police as a way to push their motive. And so that's why I say is be careful, watch out for a lot of these people with these, you know, ulterior motives. And so if you want to be a part of the solution, the first step you need to do is you need to check your motive. What and why do you want to do what you do? Is it because you're trying to get clout? Is it because you're trying to get likes? Is it because you're trying to get views? And if it's not one of those things, then you can move forward to step 2 and say, okay, now what is the process to the solution? But if you can't get past step 1, then I recommend you don't even go down that road, because it's only going to lead to more confusion that like we already have right now. Go ahead, AJ.
I think that it is easy for people to listen to us say things such as, we had Artie Gons, a convicted murderer on the podcast, who served a life sentence in prison. I forget how many years exactly he did
27.
in prison. He did 27 years in prison. We had Leon Ford, who was shot by the police and is now paralyzed. And we've had conversations with them. We've had them both on the podcast multiple times. Keep in mind, a podcast that is hosted by 2 police officers and a civilian. And I feel like it's just easy for people to hear us say, well, if we could have these conversations, why can't you? And for people to agree with it, much harder to hear is, what's stopping you? Or is it really that bad? And I'll just open up here a little bit. In my short amount of time that I've been a police officer, I would say collectively 10 years, probably a little bit more, I have tore my rotator cuff at the Black Lives Matter / George Floyd riots. I was hit with a scooter. I've partially tore my bicep. It's in an incident where somebody tried to stab me with a needle full of heroin. I've had my pinky snapped in half that required pins to fix it by a robbery suspect. I've had my picture and videos of me all over social media as I was a victim of cancel culture. I've had flyers with pictures of my wife, my address, and where my wife works passed out all over the area in which I live. I've had protesters show up to my front door and Facebook Live my address for the world to see. I've had protesters show up to my church Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, passing out flyers with my picture on them with all sorts of lies. I've been cussed at. I've been spit at. I've been hit on duty. I've been called every name in the book. I've faced opposition in my profession and out of my profession for doing what I do as far as the community policing goes. And guess what? My view on everything going on right now is, I need to go harder. I need to push further. I need to reach people who haven't been reached before. I need to bring more positivity into this negative world. So what I said before is, I feel like it's easy to hear things that you may agree with, but it's hard to hear these things that you need to hear sometimes. And maybe you need a little bit of realness for that to soak in. So if I could go through everything that I've went through, and I'm not even diving into details about some of these things because I can't, right? Or because we don't have time, or because I don't want to seem repetitive, or I don't want somebody to point at me and go, oh, here goes AJ again, sharing his stories for clout, whatever, right? If I could go through everything that I've went through in my 10 years of law enforcement and still have this positive outlook, then why can't you? Is it because the world hates you right now? Because the world hates me as well. We're in the same profession. And even more so, the world probably hates me a little bit more because I have such an influence over the profession, right?
Yep.
Because I have the social media, I have the TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, right? Like, they probably hate me a little bit more. I could show you my inbox where I get daily messages saying, F you, you're a female dog. I hope your wife, the little kid. I mean, I get them daily. I get death threats. Legitimate death threats. People will screenshot my address and send it to me on social media. But I'm not falling victim to this bullying, and that's what it is. That's legitimately what it is. Like, everything going on in the world right now is a form of bullying. And I'm gonna tell you right now how I settle bullies and how I always have. I fight back. I fight back. That may look different, or it will look different in certain situations. And what it looks like for you right now, what fighting back looks like for you right now, is doing the complete opposite of what they're saying you're doing, because you haven't been doing it from the jump. Exactly. Don't let these wannabe puppeteers pull your strings. They want to pull your strings. Keyword wannabe. They're not your puppeteer. I know who my puppeteer is. I know who my puppet master is.
Exactly.
And he's undefeated. Undefeated. So I'm going to go in with the utmost confidence, because everything else going on around the world don't matter. It don't matter. Say what you want. Do what you want. I got hit with the scooter. You know what I did? I went right back on the line. I went right back to work the next day. I went back to work the day after that, to the point where I couldn't even put my uniform shirt on. You have to stop letting people mold you into being a victim.
Yep.
Or mold you into who they want you to be. And there's ways that they're doing it that we may not even know, that I may not even be aware of. But I'm telling you what, this break that I had from the profession, because I clocked out, man. Like when I got hurt, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a step back. Y'all probably know, like I ain't been posting on social media. Everything's been old. Like I haven't been checking emails. I haven't been going to events. Like I checked out. And I feel like that's what I needed, because now I bring this new perspective. When I went to work, let me tell you what I seen, right? I know on the wall on our substation has a note from a community member that's positive. That's the first thing I seen when I walked into work. And I took the time to read them. Kids are writing letters. We support the police. Let me tell you what else I seen. When I pulled into the substation parking lot, there's a blue ribbon tied on every parking spot. We drove, I had to drive to a location to get fitted for my vest, right? I've been going so long, I need a new vest, right? Not because anything changed, but because it's expired. All right, I ain't put on the weight or nothing like that.
Put on a little
extra
pounds.
large.
But as we were driving, I'm waving at people. And you know what I got? I got waves back. I ain't get one middle finger. I'm sure I would have if I'd have been around long enough, right? I got a couple crazy looks, but they were followed by waves, or they were followed by smiles. Like people still support us. You have to open your eyes and see it. Like right now, the world's putting blinders on you, and you have to take them off.
So you mentioned something that I actually really want to touch on really briefly. Is this whole idea that people are going to say stuff that you don't agree with, and sometimes it's hard to listen, but it's important that we listen. And I bring that up because last week I was featured on this series called Rising Up. It was a Fox 11 series. It was produced by Fox. It was on Fox 11 for if you're in Southern California. If you want to watch it, just go on to YouTube and just type in Rising Up and just type in Fox and it will come up. But I made a post last week and I said something to the effect essentially that said, take a look at this docuseries that was made. And there's going to be a lot of things that you may not agree with, but you're also going to agree with some other things. But just watch it. And the reason I said that is because it's important to know that if we really truly want to move the pendulum forward, there's going to be conversations that we need to have. There's going to be stuff that we need to listen to that we may not like, but it needs to happen in order for us to gain understanding from one another. I watched some of that docuseries, and I'm not going to lie, like, there was a lot of it that I didn't agree with. That matter of fact, the guy that asked me to do it, he flat out told me, "Hey man, we're doing a docuseries. I've already had done interviews with the founders of Black Lives Matter. I've done interviews with Al Sharpton. I've done it, all these civil rights people. And he was like, but I want the other side of it, and I want to know if you'd be interested in doing it." And so while most people in our profession would have probably said, nope, I'm not about to be, seen side by side with some of those people that I don't agree with, I said yes, because I look at it from the standpoint of this is my opportunity to give the other side of it. And so as I watched it, don't get me wrong, man, there was times where I'm like, man, this sounds so stupid, or this dude is idiot. But I still need to hear that stuff, because if I get past my initial emotion, my initial response to what they're saying, if I get past that, then what I hear it from a different perspective. So when I hear the person that says we need to abolish police, because there's a guy on there, there's an activist on there who's probably early 20s, who probably really doesn't know much about anything. And he's like adamant about we need to abolish the police. And he says we need to recreate a new law enforcement, which if you ask me, it's the same thing. Like you're going to abolish police to get another police. It doesn't make sense. But
police 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. But through all of that nonsense that I perceived as being nonsense, which a lot of us are going to agree that it's probably nonsense, what I hear is a person that really just doesn't understand what we do. And so it's almost that conversation, like if you're married out there, you can agree when, there's a funny video out there. If Google or YouTube, it's not about the nail. And it's a funny comical video, but it looks like a man and wife, they're sitting down having this conversation, and this female, she has a nail like that's smack dab like in her forehead. And so she keeps talking about like, oh my goodness, like it hurts. Like I just have all these head pains and this and that. And so he's trying to tell her like, look like this because there's like a nail in your head. And she's like, it's not about the nail. I'm not talking about the nail. I'm just talking. And she's voicing all of these frustrations she has, but he keeps wanting to talk over her and say, well, if we just, and so this goes on and on for a few minutes. But the whole theme of the video, what they're trying to convey is that we always try to just talk over the person that's trying to talk to us. So instead of listening to them, we are actually, just trying to get our own point of view across without actually listening to what they're saying. And so I kind of took that same concept and implemented it when I talk about these docuseries. And the guy that's talking about we need to abolish police, as dumb as it may sound to him, he just really doesn't understand what police is. Or he may have had a bad experience, which is causing him to feel that way. Or he may believe into a lot of the media hype, which police are out there animals and we're killers. And so to him, he truly believes that abolishing police is the right solution. And once you get past what they initially say, the surface level information, and you really dive deep and find out what their heart truly wants, when you formulate a response based off of that, then you are able to now have educated conversations and dialogue with people that are more from the heart. And that's where the change begins to start to stimulate. That's where people can say, okay, you know what? Even though I thought we should abolish police, I understand a little bit more what you do. So as opposed to saying abolish police, maybe we should implement some better changes in law enforcement. And that's where you begin to see the shift in the way people think and talk. And so to AJ's point, we can't even get to that point until we have these conversations. I did an interview on Good Day LA this past week. And during that interview, she asked me the question. She says, Ryan, like, we talk about police reform. Why do officers have to show up with a badge and a gun and a flashlight and a taser and the pepper spray on calls for service with mental health and people that are going through all these mental health crises? Wouldn't it be better for somebody to show up there that's a little bit more even keel, doesn't come off as being more aggressive, doesn't come off as, being authoritative, and maybe has a little bit more experience in psychiatric experience? And so she asked that question from a genuine place. Most officers would hear that question and immediately get defensive and be like, oh man, that's stupid. This is nonsense. See, this is the ignorance of why we're in the place we're in today, is because people ask dumb questions that they really believe it. But I didn't take it that way. I took it as she genuinely feels like, hey, social workers are the solutions to our law enforcement problems. But I told her, this was my response. I heard her question out and this was my response. I said, hey, you know what? And I kind of laughed because I thought it was a little bit, it's funny because I look at it as like, I know the reality of it, just like all law enforcement officers, but she doesn't. And my response to her was simple. I was like, I think officers can do both. I think I can show up on scene as an officer that has a badge, a gun, a pepper spray, a baton, and taser, but still lead with compassion, lead with empathy, lead as Ryan, not Corporal Ryan or Corporal Tillman. I think that we can accomplish both, but we have to get to the training. We have to train people to do both. We have to be able to hire the person that can do both. So instead of getting rid of one and replacing it with another, why don't we just have the same person, but just be capable of doing both? And when I said that, you can tell in her mind, she was like legitimately like, oh, hey, he says it's possible to do both. And so again, we can't get to those solutions until we legitimately want to hear the heart of another person as opposed to the mouth of another person. And so that's I think this is a good conversation because we have to learn as people, officers and community members both, start listening to the heart and not the mouth.
I saw a meme also. I think I've seen this on Facebook, and I don't even really get on Facebook all like that. But it just kind of showed you, at least it showed me the power of the lens you're looking through. And what it was is there's a guy like on a island. He's like stranded and he's like all scraggly, like he's been there for a while, right? He's just like ready to get off this island. And then there's another guy on a raft, like off in the distance. And he's the same way. He's all raggedy and, real scruffy, like he's been on this raft, and they're pointing at each other and there's a bubble over each head. And the guy on the raft is pointing to the land and he's going land. Like he's like really excited. And then the guy on the land is pointing at the raft and he's going a raft. And I was like, wow, like that's deep. Like it really just shows you like the lens in which you're looking through can make something seem like it's not. Like, you know, they're looking at each other like, oh, they're the saviors.
Yeah.
So we're really, it's like, well, y'all gonna be in the same boat, just y'all gonna switch shoes, right? Yeah, I know that doesn't apply like directly to what you said, but it just kind of goes back to
No, but it does. It does, because you look at things through a different perspective, and you have to look at things from a different perspective in order to seek the change that you really want.
There you go. And you know, once again, like we have these conversations often, right? Like even when we're not recording the podcast, like we often have conversations, whether it's like with us three in the group chat or on the phone, with our coworkers. But you being the viewer and our listener have to have these conversations too, because like this is how we grow, right? Like if you heard during this podcast, this isn't a plug by any means, so don't take it this way. If you heard something like during this podcast or like during this discussion that struck a nerve or like got you thinking, then maybe you should go to your substation, maybe you should go to your police department and continue this conversation. You know, I was listening to this podcast. They brought up the importance of the lens and how you look at it. And, you know, feel free to share like anything that you heard on this podcast to kind of get that talk going, because I've seen the change in people by these conversations. I've seen like the relationships formed. I've seen the change that it's created, secondary and tertiary, right? Like if Ryan and I, we had a talk when we first met. And you know what that was? Man, you're doing really great things, Ryan. And Ryan's like, man, you're doing really great things too. How can we take it to the next level?
Mm-hmm.
I started a podcast. And then Billy got on board and really took it to the next level, right? And it's just like that started by what? A conversation.
Yep.
You met Leon. That relationship started by a conversation. So there's nothing stopping you as the viewer or as the listener of this podcast to go out of your comfort zone and have a conversation with somebody and hope that it'll form a relationship. Or bare minimum, what happens? You guys disagree, you walk away with a little bit more knowledge on an opposite perspective.
Yep, absolutely.
More tools on your tool belt, right? How am I going to navigate through the complexities of the area that I work, right? Step out of your comfort zone, have a conversation. And where we at on time?
53.
Okay, I got a little bit more time to keep this going. A lot of issues that I have seen arise in the profession come from a lack of cultural competency. Don't write me off yet. Don't write me off. Let me say it one more time. Don't write me off yet. I've seen time and time again officers who come from, we'll just say the suburbs or like a farm town, and they go to the inner city, and exactly what happens. The story that you were just talking about, Ryan, with the nail in the head, right? Like that happens on the scene because they're like, well, do this. And this person's like, I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about it. It's just like, and it builds up and it explodes and it turns into like this use of force. And I'm not putting it 100% on the officer, right? Like there's a compliancy issue that's factored into this as well. But what would that look like if prior to that run or prior to that day that you got sent out on this you know, nail in the head situation, a week before that, if you had a conversation with somebody in that neighborhood, and then you show up to that run a week after that conversation, the person you had that conversation with is there and is able to mitigate that situation. They go, oh, wait, Officer AJ, wait, what he's saying is he's upset not because he has a nail in his head, but because that person sitting right there shot him in the head. And then he could go, wait, hey, TJ, the officer is not yelling at you. He's telling you to pull the nail out of your head and the pain might go away. All because of what? You had a conversation. Talk to people.
Yep.
Wave at people. I had a coworker tell me, oh, I ain't been to work in 4 or 5 days. And don't get me wrong, I'm not like patting myself on the back here, but I'm waving at people in the cruiser. And the officer said, man, I ain't got this many waves in a while. I'm waving it. I'm initiating it. And it made me ask myself, like, well, you probably ain't waving to people. You probably ain't, you know, you're probably so tainted and probably so beaten and battered, which I get. but you're probably so worn out that you're forgetting to initiate the change. You're forgetting to initiate the positivity. And I know y'all hearing a lot from me during this episode, but like you have to understand, like, the world is hurting right now. The world is hurting right now. And anytime you are hurting, what are you looking for? A solution. You're looking for a savior. You're looking for somebody to save the day. You listening to this or that person, you just don't know it yet. Show the world, like, make them eat their words. If y'all thought I was active before, listen, when I say I'm ready to get in, I'm so ready to get back in uniform, and I'm already mentally preparing for whatever opposition comes my way. I already know that there will be people in positions of power who want to stop me from doing what I do. We can't have AJ continuing to do this. Go everything that we're preaching. It goes against everything that I believe in. But guess what? You can't stop me from doing what I do. You might be able to stop me from doing what I do in uniform, but guess what? I'm gonna be doing after hours. I'm gonna be doing what I do.
Yep.
You have to go in with that. I'm so pumped, and I want y'all to be pumped with me. Like, it starts today.
Yep.
It starts today. Right now, you listening to this, it starts wherever you work, whatever city you live in, whatever village you work for, whatever your profession is. The positive change in this world starts today, and it's contagious and it's infectious. People want to be surrounded by positive people. People want to be surrounded by people who are bringing a positive change and are solution based. You're going to be that person. And when you infect somebody else with that positive energy and that positive outlook, and you share that lens, somebody else is going to see it, and then they want. And before you know it, the dominoes will fall. The dominoes will fall. The solution ain't going to find us. We have to be the solution during all of this chaos.
Man,
have to be.
Man, you hit it. The nail, no point intended, but you hit the nail right on the head, bro. You did. And, I truly say this, genuinely, man, please stay motivated out there. If you're a cop, stay motivated. If you're a community member, stay motivated. I've said this before, I'll say it again. We can get better. We will get better, but it's a matter of if you want to get better. So, man, AJ, this was good. Billy, you got any words of your genuine wisdom over there?
I don't have much of value to add, but I think one of the main things is that AJ said is initiative. It takes action. They're not just, these conversations aren't going to happen. And even just beyond the word, like, conversations all the time, you guys are, you have the conversations, you learn, and then you actually put it into action. So you take what you get from these conversations and you put it in your day job every day. You go talk to schools, you meet with the community members, you're actually taking action. You're not just talking about it.
Amen. You guys got a One Has to Go? Because if not, I'm going to, what's his name? Did you guys see that post? That it was a story. Let me see if I can find it. It was a story that he had made.
Of a lovely lady.
Nah, it was a good one. He had actually tagged all of us in it. He tagged all of
Facebook?
us on our IG page or whatever. Here it is right here. And so he said, I don't know if Billy's going to like this one.
We all already know where this is going.
I'm going to say it anyway. This was really good, though. So it was ribs, fried fish, wings, or king crab.
One of those have to go? Can you say it one more time?
So ribs, fried fish, wings, or king crab.
That's tough.
I already know which one. I already told y'all mine.
I know. You did? What'd you say?
Ribs got to go.
Oh, you are out.
They got to go. Got to go.
Mind.
Got to go, bro.
I don't think so, man.
Got to go. Peace.
That's because you cook dry ribs. That's
nah,
why.
bro.
You don't sauce your ribs and they're
too
dry.
Messy. They're too messy. Get all on your hands and your teeth and stuff like that. Nah. Peace.
Fried fish.
You tripping.
I'm agreeing with the fried fish. It always gives me a stomach ache. It's like too much.
Okay. I mean, I hate to say it because I get fried fish and hot sauce.
From Billy.
Fried fish and hot sauce. Grew up on it, right?
Bro, like catfish or fried catfish though?
First off, wings, not at all. King crab, and I'm just now getting hip to some king crab. I hate to admit that, but like,
what?
I think 2 years ago was the first time I ever had king crab.
Just like you got hip to the acai bowl.
I'm not, bro. I grew up different, man. I don't know, like.
Oh Lord Jesus.
My in-law had threw me like my in-laws threw me like this surprise birthday party kind of a couple years ago, and it was a seafood boil, and I'd never even been to a seafood boil up until this point. And they were just like walking me through all of it, and you got to like break the crab leg and do had the butter, like had like a little candle with the butter on top. And I was like, oh, this place is heavy.
Man, I'm hungry now.
So yeah, fried fish got to go.
Well,
man,
shout out.
You smoke a rack of ribs? Oh,
here
I
we go.
agree. I don't like messy food. Not to sound lame, but I don't like it.
That's why I like the ribs like that.
I like.
Oh my goodness, my food is so messy. Ooh, your sauce on my finger.
Shout out to my guy that gave us that one has to go. If you guys have a one has to go, please send it to us, man. We love doing that with you guys.
But I have one last word of wisdom though.
Ooh,
what I need you to do, everybody.
Here we go.
Take your money and put it in crypto.
There it is. Hey, I'm with them on
not financial advice.
I'm with them on that. Yeah, do not take this as financial. I'm with them on that
I don't know
though.
if that's sound advice. Like,
here's why it sounds. Let me tell you this.
Didn't like all that just drop recently?
No.
Here we go.
Hey, so let me just give you my brief synopsis of it real quick. This will be very, very brief. I promise. So I don't know if y'all saw. There's a petition out right now that has over 2 million signatures. That is to send a $2,000 check to every American every month. So here's the thing: we keep giving out all this money to Americans.
It's not gonna be worth anything.
It's not. So
that's not a lot of people though.
What?
That's not a lot of people that sign that.
Oh, well, either way.
Yeah,
the point is though is that they're still trying to find more ways to give out just money to Americans. The more money you give out, the more inflated our country becomes, and the less of a value the dollar actually has. I mean, granted, it's not really much value to it as it is because it used to be backed by gold. But anyways, long story short, I've been doing some research.
We're gonna lose more people on crypto talk than anything else.
I've been doing some research, and we are losing the value of dollar. Do you know how much money is left over after they send all this money out to states, and now they're like, having lotteries for people to get the vaccine? That's all because it's just leftover money that states have no idea what to do with it.
Ohio started that, by the way.
Yeah, they did, and California followed suit. But anyways, not surprising. So anyways, long story short, you lose the value of the dollar. Well, shoot, now puts more value in your crypto. And that's why you invest crypto. But anyways,
here we go.
Story for a different day. If you guys have not already, make sure you guys subscribe to the Common Hero Project. A lot of the stuff that me and AJ talk about, the words of wisdom, all the stuff that we get from other people, you guys can find in that newsletter. Make sure you guys like our podcast, 5-star review, 5-star rating, and also leave us a review so that way we can hear from you. We appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for sticking around. And I don't want to end this podcast without paying tribute to our veterans out there that have gone before us to pave the way so that we can have the freedom that we have today.
That's right.
There's a lot of people that lost their life in the military fighting for the freedoms that we have, and we bicker over and we complain about whether we see things differently or not. The reason we can stand and vocalize those differences is because people went before us and sacrificed their life so we can have those conversations. So thank you to you guys that have lost your life. Thank you to your families that also made a sacrifice when you left to go serve in the services for our country. So we love you guys. With that being said, have a happy Memorial Day. Make sure you guys celebrate it with the veterans in mind. And with that being said, we'll see y'all next week. Peace.
We're now taking Ethereum payments.